Hey yo, welcome to the Best Day Ever podcast. I am your host, Tru Sav, extraordinaire. How are you guys doing? You already know how I'm doing today. Best day ever. Thank you for asking. We've got another exciting one here for you today. Um, it's going to be another storytelling one. I was talking to a coworker today, and for some reason or another, Eric Garner came up. And I'm sure everyone knows who Eric Garner is. That was the guy from New York that had a little altercation with the police, and it didn't end too well for him. He ended up getting choked out. He ended up getting choked out and dying, to be more specific. And I was talking to a coworker about it, and she was saying how messed up it was, and they shouldn't have did that. And I told her I agree with you on that point. The one thing I disagree with you on is that he escalated the situation. And when I told her that, she got really upset at me and was like, oh, no, it was the police fault. I was like, again, they shouldn't have choked them out, but he also shouldn't have argued with them like that. And so that conversation turned into, how do you react when you get pulled over? And so she said to me that when she gets pulled over, she is going to tell the cop how she feels about it. She's going to say, I don't think this is right. I think this is wrong. You shouldn't have did that, this, that, and the other. And I listened to her talk. And then when she got done, I asked her, I was like, do you think, I was like, well, number one, full disclosure, she's a woman. She's a black woman, maybe 5'10", 5'11", maybe 150, 160. And I asked her, I said, do you think you responding like that and me responding like that as a 280-pound, 6'2" black man is the same thing? And she's like, well, no, it's completely different. I was like, okay. Now, do you think that how you respond to them decides whether or not you get a ticket? And she said, well, no, they're going to give me the ticket anyways, so I might as well tell them how I really feel. And I was like, well, I disagree a little bit. She's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, I've been in countless situations. I've been pulled over multiple times, and 9 times out of 10, I don't get a ticket. Well, 9.5 out of 10, I don't get a ticket. So she was, of course, in disbelief, and I shared a couple stories with her. And in the end, we just agreed to disagree. We just didn't really see eye to eye on the subject. But since we talked about it today, it brought up some old memories that I figured I would share today. So I guess we'll have some more story time with Tru Sav today. Wow, we're getting in the way, way back machine. The first time I got pulled over, the very first time, I didn't even have a driver's license. I was 15. Yeah, 15, maybe 16. Did I even have a permit? I didn't even have a permit. I was driving. It was my mother, my uncle, and my sister, and obviously myself. And we were driving to the mall, and she had let me drive. Well, obviously she let me drive. But I think the tags were bad on the car, maybe. So as we're driving, the officer gets behind us, pulls us over. so I safely pull over. She says, license and registration. I was like, well, I have the registration and insurance, but I don't have a license. She said, oh, you don't have it with you? I was like, no, I don't have a license. She said, oh, well, let me see your learner's permit. I was like, no, I don't have a permit either. So now the officer is confused. She's like, you don't have a driver's license or a permit? So she looks to my mom, and my mom tells her, yeah, he's enrolled in his classes, but we thought it would be a good idea to give him some practice first. And the cop said, no, that wasn't a good idea. But luckily, since I was with my mother, the owner of the car, she didn't give me a ticket for driving without a license, because that would have ended my whole situation. So score 1 for the police on that one. And then the sad part about it was that we actually had the tags for the car. So had we put the tags on the car, we would have never got pulled over. So, hey, you win some, you lose some. now that I think about it, that was the first time I got pulled over, but that wasn't my most memorable time driving the car, actually. The first time I ever drove the car, um, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in the Kennedy High School parking lot. We had it was Friday night. We had just driven to Pizza Guys and Chopsticks Express, which was less than half a mile from the house. We picked up all the food we were going to eat for Friday because it was Friday. TGIF was on ABC, and my mother let me drive the car through the parking lot. So I parked, parallel parked, drove around. So I said, "Can I drive the car home?" And I was 12, 13 maybe, so 6th, 7th grade. So she's like, "Yeah." So we pull out of the parking lot. I pull up to the stop sign or the stoplight. The light turns green. I've already turned the wheel to turn, and I put the pedal to the floor. And the car fishtails. We drive up onto the center divider to where now we're still facing the opposite direction, but the front of the car is up on the thing. My sister is in the back laughing hysterically. I'm still kind of tripping because I didn't expect the car to fishtail like that. My mom was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Get out, get out." So I get out. We switch spots. We drive to the house. But so yeah, my first experience didn't go too well. Now, back to high school. I've had my license for a while at this point because now I was in high school. I was a junior, senior. And my dad let me drive his car. Well, it was my car technically, but you know how that is with parents. It was I want to say a 1988 Cabriolet, and it was teal. We affectionately called it the Rabbit. I think I posted a picture of it on my Instagram. It should be on there. It's a picture of young Tru Sav in front of the Rabbit. And I got pulled over. In that car, I probably got pulled over 20 times? Somewhere around there. So, I still didn't really have a disdain or a dislike for police officers. I mean, that's what they do. It's your job. Like, you're supposed to pull people over, whatever. I never felt like there was malice behind it or they were singling me out. I mean, they might have been, but as far as I knew, I didn't really care. And most of the time I got pulled over, I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing anyways. So I was just happy that they let me go. Some memorable times would be during football season, we always got pulled over. Because at the time, Elk Grove was a suburb outside of Sacramento, but it wasn't incorporated yet. So it didn't have its own police department. So the sheriff department was responsible for patrolling that area. Sac PD was in the south area, downtown, all that type of stuff. But mainly the sheriffs. So I'm willing to bet that it was because they do the car. And every Friday or Saturday, we would get pulled over. It could be for no seatbelt, speeding, not using your turn signal. There was a plethora of stuff we got pulled over for. And every time it was the same routine. License, insurance, registration. Okay, step out. They would cuff us. They'd sit us on the curb. We'd sit there for maybe 20 minutes. A lot of times, it got to the point where they wouldn't even search the car. They would pull us over, get us out, maybe sit us on the curb. They might cuff us. They might not. Sometimes, on a few rare occasions, they would call a couple of other cars to the location that we were at. And it would usually be 4 or 5 other cars. So they'd just be sitting there, having a good old time, talking to each other. And a few times, they would actually drag race in the cop car. Because at the time, Elk Grove wasn't as big as it is now. There wasn't as many businesses. There wasn't as many houses. So the sheriffs would pull up to the stoplight and wait for the light to turn green, and they would race down the street. So while it was an inconvenience to be pulled over, you also got to show because they were going to race and they were going to act a fool. And most of the time, once they got us out of the car, they recognized us from the high school because we played football for El Grove. And at the time, we were a powerhouse, so they knew who we were. So they would ask us, hey, how'd you guys do last night? Oh, you had that many tackles? And we said, oh, that's what's up, bro. You ran for how many yards? Oh, okay. So while it was an inconvenience, there was no real malice behind it, I guess. It was just something for them to do. Another memorable one, it was me and phonetics. We had picked up this girl that we knew she went to another high school. And she said, oh, I want to come over. I want to kick it. Air quotes. So we go pick her up. We're driving back. We get pulled over. Same thing. We know the deal. License, registration, insurance. So I roll my window down. And as the officer is coming up to the car, he stops at the back passenger door. She was sitting behind me, so the driver's side rear door. He walks up to the window, knocks on the window, and asks her to roll the window down. So him and I look at each other. We're like, oh, okay, we already know what this is. So full disclosure, the girl that was in the car with us, she was white, blonde haired, blue eyed, the whole deal. So the officer knocks on the window. She rolls the window down. And before he asks us anything, he says to her, are you all right? So she, not understanding the situation, looks around and says, yes, I'm fine. And the officer asks her, are you with these two guys willingly? Like, are they taking you somewhere you don't want to go? And again, she's confused and she responds, no, I know them. Like, I'm going with them. And so then he says, well, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be scared. Like, if they're holding you against your will, just say it and everything will be fine. So at this point, me and him are cracking up because she's totally oblivious to what's going on. So he comes into the window, doesn't ask for license, insurance, anything, tells us we can go. So we're dying. We're busting up. And she's still confused later, like, I don't understand what happened. Like, why did he ask me that? And we had to explain to her, it's like, you're in a car with two black guys at 1 o'clock in the morning. So to him, he thinks that we're taking you somewhere that you don't want to go. And I don't think she still got it, but it was a lesson learned for her that day. That was an interesting one. Let's see. Around the same time, I graduated from high school after that. So a lot of that stopped because I wasn't really in the area. After I graduated, I went to a basketball game at Laguna Creek. That was our big rival, the Cardinals. So we go to the game. We ended up beating them by, I don't know, 3-4 points, something like that. So we all had signs. They had like L's, they had Laguna Creek crossed out or their mascot crossed out, whatever, no Cardinals, whatever. So after the game, we're on the court waving the signs around, acting obnoxious. And an officer walks up to me and it says, oh, I need that sign. I'm in true savage mode at that point. I wasn't drinking, wasn't smoking, anything like that. And for some reason, he reached for the sign, and I don't know what I thought, but I slapped his hand away because it was just a natural reaction. Like he tried to snatch it out of my hand, and I slapped his hand. And as soon as I did it, I still didn't realize what I had done at that moment. He reached again. I slapped his hand again. I put my hand behind someone else's back, and we passed the sign around. Now he's upset. So he keeps trying to grab me, and I keep knocking his hand away from me, and I'm not thinking about what I'm doing at all. It's just someone trying to grab me. So I'm hitting his hands off me, like, get off me, get off me. It didn't hit me until I realized that I'm in a gym with maybe 1,500, 2,000 people, and they're all watching this. So I'm backing up. Because we were in the middle of the gym. I'm backing up. Oh, don't touch me! Don't touch me! Oh, and at the moment I realized what I was doing, I just tried to escape the gym, and I was like, I need to get out of here. And as I back out of the gym, I open the gym door, and as I turn around, there's 10 officers outside in a half semicircle. And as soon as I see them, I immediately put my hands up in the air and I say, "Okay, boys, you got me. No need for the rough stuff. You got me." So they grab me, they throw me up against the wall, jack my arm up, all that stuff. I mean, for all they know, I was just some guy that assaulted an officer. So I took the little jabs, like, okay, whatever. I deserved it. So they handcuff me, they take me behind the school, they get my ID, and the officer comes back there. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so they took me behind the school, so now he can get a couple free shots, and then whatever's going to happen is going to happen, whatever ticket I get or go to jail. So he looks at my ID, he reads my name, and he just kind of like walks away. And I was like, okay, that's weird. Because at this point, I'm still in the car. Or no, I'm on the hood of the car. They have me seated on the front of the squad car. So a couple minutes goes by, and he comes back to me, and he says, "Your name is Tru Sav, right?" I was like, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "You went to Elk Grove your freshman year of high school, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You tried out for the football team, but you didn't have grades." I said, yes." He's like, "Then you transferred to Kennedy High School where you played football your sophomore year. Then you transferred back to Elk Grove and played baseball your sophomore year. And then your junior and senior year, you played football at Elk Grove. Oh, and then you wrestled. You wrestled the summer of your junior year going into your senior year." And at this moment, my mind is blown because I'm like, how do you know all that? Because I wasn't even on the wrestling team. I just worked out with them in the summer from my junior year to my senior year. So I'm like, how in the world do you know that? Like, my parents barely know that. And so he says, "Well, I've been following like your career here since you transferred here as a freshman." And so I was like, okay. And I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to say. So he's like, "Well, look, misunderstandings happen sometimes in life. Like, I don't think that you had any ill will towards me, so we'll just chalk this up as a life lesson. All right, you're free to go." I'm thinking it's a trick. I'm like, there's no way he's going to let me go. Not after this just happened. And sure enough, he let me go. So I walk back up to the front, and all my friends are huddled up trying to figure out, what do we tell his parents? Is he going to jail? So as soon as I walk around the corner, the first thing I say, "Tru Sav in the building." And they lose their mind. The crowd is like, wait a minute. This is the guy that was just the other officers think that somehow I escaped or something. Because they're like, wait a minute. How did you, what? This was probably, that helped build the legend of Tru Sav that day. Because this was in a gym full of kids that went to both high schools, people that had graduated, all people our age. They saw what happened with me and the officer, and then they saw me walk away. So I mean, that's pretty rare. I would have to say. Now, fast forward 2 years, and it's incidents like this that furthermore make me believe that it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and you have to be careful on how you treat people and how you talk to people. I'm riding through a Camden Passage. Yeah, I think it's a suburb in Laguna, and I blow a stop sign. Completely didn't stop. I just 100% blew the stop sign. It was one of the T-shaped stop signs. So there's traffic going two ways, and then there's a way that you can turn left or right, but it's not the four-way stop sign. So I run the stop sign. As I run the stop sign, I see a cop car parked right there. So as soon as I run it, I just pull over. I don't even attempt to pretend like I didn't see him. So I pull over. You know the drill. License, registration, insurance. I have all my paperwork out. As the officer walks up to the car, he looks in the car and he says, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Like, I'm fine. How are you? He's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" No. He's like, "Yeah, you and me danced at Laguna Creek." And I looked at him and I was like, "Oh, it's the same officer. It's the same guy." So he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm at Sac City now. I just transferred from American River. Da 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 da." He's like, "Oh, okay, that's what's up." He's like, "Are you starting?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm playing defense. Still playing D-line, He's like, "Yeah, that's what's up." It's like, "Well, you have a good day, all right?" I said, "What do you mean?" I ran the stop sign. He's like, "Yeah, but it's all right. You didn't mean to do it, right?" I was like, "I did not mean to do that, officer." He's like, "All right, have a nice day." So, yeah, dodged another bullet. And I don't know what I did in a past life. I don't know who has been praying for me, but a lot of my traffic stops ended like that. Now, here's a traffic stop. There's another memorable one where I wasn't driving. I was a passenger this time. And this was kind of the first one where I saw how things can go left if you don't, if you, if you act a fool, if you don't show the officer any respect or you try to play dumb, like this is where things can go bad. It was me, D-Moja, phonetics, and myself, obviously. We were driving down, we were doing the freeway. We were going to the mall, summer day, where we all graduated. And he's weaving through traffic. Now, the worst place to weave through traffic is on 99 because the CHP office is off of Mac Road. So they patrol that area all the time. So he's weaving through traffic. We're smoking. We're just being stupid. And we hear the bloop, bloop, bloop. So we know what that is. As soon as you hear that, you already know what time it is. Now, the one thing that saved me in the situation was that all of his windows were tinted. The back window, the back passenger windows, and the front windows were slightly tinted, not too tinted. So he doesn't know what to do because we're smoking in the car. So we're caught dead to rights. As soon as they pull us over and we roll this window down, we're finished. So he does the worst thing possible in the situation. He keeps driving. He doesn't pull over. He just keeps going straight. And so we're kind of like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to pull over. So the officer that was behind us was on a motorcycle. And we were in a 98 Saturn at the time. So we weren't out running anything. The officer pulls up to the window and is yelling at him to pull over. Pull over. Pull over. So the driver, which was Moja, D-, he's looking at the officer like, I'm trying. So I was actually the one that had that was smoking when he pulled over. So I put it out on the bottom of my shoe and I stick it into my sock. Smart thinking. So we finally get pulled over. The officer comes up to the window, yanks the door open, and snatches him out of the car like it was a cartoon. Throws him on the trunk of the car, pats him down, cuffs him, tells him, "You stay right there." He pulls phonetics out and puts him on the front of the car. He's patting him down. Or no, he has him put his hands on the hood. Now, there was still some weed left in the car, and I didn't know where it was at. So since the windows are tinted in the back, I'm searching through the entire front of the car trying to find it to try to hide it somewhere. Unfortunately, I wasn't quick enough. So the officer gets to the front, pats phonetics down, cuffs him. Now, in this situation, I didn't know what to do. So I did the only thing that I could think to do at that moment. As the officer walks back to my door to open the door, I pretend like I'm asleep. I close my eyes, put my head down, and just act like I'm sleeping. So he opens the door. He says, hey. He looks in and sees that I'm sleeping, allegedly. So he taps me and said, "Excuse me, sir. Could you wake up?" So when I open my eyes, I see it's a police officer. So I jump like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What happened? He says, well, your friends were smoking marijuana while they were driving down the freeway. I was like, what? Oh, no. Are they okay? Like, are we? He's like, well, sir, just step out of the car and we'll talk about it. So I'm like, okay, like, no problem, no problem. So I step out. They couldn't search us at the moment because we were right on an exit on the freeway. So they put them in the car together. They put me in another car. We drive off of the freeway. They have a canine, which wasn't even the scary kind of canine. It was a beagle, like not even a German Shepherd or anything. They let the beagle into the car. He sniffs around. He finds the weed. So the officer holds the weed up in there. He goes, so whose is it? And unfortunately, Phonetic said, it's not mine. So they said, well, it is now. So he's like, what? No, it's not mine. You're tripping. This and this and this and this. I remain completely silent. I shut the fuck up. So he's like, well, it's yours. Writes him a ticket for possession. Writes Moja a ticket for speeding. And we go about our merry way. And as we're leaving, they're saying, oh, it was your weed. Like, why didn't you say anything? I was like, bro, what was I supposed to say? I was like, it's mine? Like, at best, he would have thrown it away. If he wouldn't have said anything, he would have just stomped it out. Like, they kept it anyways. So they're probably going to keep it. They're probably going to smoke that when they get off work. But because you yelled, it's not mine, like, of course they're going to give it to you. But, I mean, hindsight's 20/20. That was one of the less fun times we got pulled over. After that, I got pretty lucky. I didn't really get pulled over too many times after that. The next memorable one, I should say, I was in a neighborhood. Where was it? I was by Powerin and Florin. I was by the Fast Trip. Anybody from Sacramento knows where that's at. It was me and a guy I played football with. We were at the park smoking again. And an Asian kid that he knew walked up. So all three of us were smoking. As we're smoking, a couple walks up, a white guy, white girl. So we're all hanging out at the park, smoking, whatever. And a sheriff car passes us. So we're like, oh, they're not going to stop. We're just minding our business. So the car turns the corner. We think we're home free. Then we see the car come back. So they come back. There's two cops. It's a tall black guy, or it's a black officer and a female officer that's white. So they come up. They start talking to us. They ask the first thing they ask every time is anybody on probation parole? So the white guy says, yeah. He says, I'm on parole. As soon as he says that, cop cuffs him. So he cuffs him. The Asian guy asks the Asian guy parole probation. He says no. He's like, well, I'm just going to cuff you. You're not under arrest. We're just detaining you until we figure out what's going on. So the guy that was with me, he looks at me and he says, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Just call me. I'm like, we're in a traffic stop right now. Like, we're being pulled over. What do you mean? He calmly stands up, takes a couple steps, and runs. A little background on dude that I was with. I played football with him at ARC, and he was a 100-meter champion, and he ran a 4.2, maybe sub 4.2 40, which means that he runs 100 yards in about 10 seconds. So he takes off, and he had those breakaway pants that you have that like basketball players wear. So he takes the first 1 or 2 steps. It was poetry in motion. He rips the pants off, has the shorts on underneath, and he's gone. Like he could have gave Usain Bolt a run for his money. Now the black officer, it was the male officer. He looks to the female officer and is like, "Get him." So in my mind, I'm still seated in the car, but I can see all this transpiring. I'm thinking she's going to catch him because there's no way he would tell her to chase her if she wasn't going to catch him. She starts to run and she looks like Pamela Anderson on Baywatch. She is running in slow motion. Like it, it was so ridiculous to look at. The park that we were at, it had to be maybe 200, 300 yards until the next neighborhood. I watched him run into the neighborhood, and she hadn't gotten halfway across the playground yet. And she was just struggling. It looked like she was running in quicksand. There's no other way to describe how slow she was running. So now it's serious. Like now this isn't just a traffic stop. This is somebody ran, somebody's on parole. So the guy draws his gun. So he's like, driver, get your hands up. So my hands are touching the roof of the car. I'm not moving. I'm not looking for my ID. I'm not doing anything. Time is going by. 5 minutes go by. 10 minutes go by. My arms are getting tired. They're wobbly. And I don't know if I can hold my hands up longer. Luckily, another unit comes. These fools drive through the park on the grass, cut across, lights on. So finally I can put my hands down. The officer comes up, so they do the open the door out the window, get out, face down on the ground, all that type of stuff. So they cuff me, they get me up. They're like, "Who was that?" I was like, "Man, I have no idea." Like, I was just sitting here smoking, and dude walked up. An important part that I missed, when all of this happened originally, the Asian guy that was in the back seat dropped his backpack in my car and closed the door and walked away from the car. I noticed it initially when it happened, but I didn't think too much about it until the officer says, "Can we search your car?" Like, of course. I don't have anything in the car. Go ahead. Again, my super secret tactic. When we were smoking, I put the weed out and I put it in my sock again. Yeah. So I knew there was nothing in the car because we didn't have any other weed. So the officer opens the bag and there's pills and weed and all types of. So I'm looking at the Asian dude like, "Hey, you better speak up." And he, karma is something else, boy. So he looks at me with this look like, "Why am I going to say something? It's not my car." And I instantly thought of the story I just told. I was like, oh well, turnabout's fair play, I guess. So my mind's racing. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. So the officer is looking through the bag, and luckily for me, the guy had left his school ID in the bag. So he looks at the guy and was like, "Oh, so you were going to let your buddy take the fall, huh? You ain't shit." So luckily I escaped that one. So right around this time, the female officer is getting back. Now she's walking at this point. She's not running across the field. And she's mad as hell, boy. Her hair's all across her face. She's sweating. She can't catch her breath. She's looking at me like, "Tell us where your friend is at. We already got the helicopter. The dogs are going to catch him. This is it." So I'm trying to keep a straight face with every bone in my body because I know they didn't catch him. There's no way. He was already across the park and into the neighborhood by the time you even got halfway. And he lived in the neighborhood, so there's no way you caught him. So they searched the car, throw stuff around like they normally do. I didn't have anything, and my address was a Greenhaven address. Now, again, we talked about it. Greenhaven is a middle-class neighborhood. The neighborhood I was in was nowhere close to that. So my story was, I just met this guy. I was just out here smoking. You see my address. You see where I live at. I don't live over here. So they were like, "Okay, well, you need to be more careful. You need to not do this type of stuff," so on and so forth. So they let me go. Another bullet dodged. Let's see. After that, I didn't really have too many encounters with the police driving. This was because a little bit after this, I got a DUI. So my license was suspended. And once my license got suspended for that, my parents took the car. So there was no more driving. I don't think I had a car for 3, 4, maybe 5 years after that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was a while. Now, in that time, I had a roommate move in with me, and she had a car, but my license was still suspended because I go to the class? I went to the classes. I paid all that stuff, but at the time, back then the rules were a little bit different. My license was suspended for a while, so she had asked me to buy her some alcohol because I was over 21. So I bought her for her, and she wanted me to go pick up a friend of hers in the north. So I was like, sure, why not? Let's risk it. So we go out to the north. It's maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. We get out there, and we pick the girl up. She wants to go meet her boyfriend to get some money or something. So I was like, okay, fine. So we drive to the Manors. Anyone from Sacramento can tell you where that is. So we go to the Manors. We're parked on the street. She crosses the street to go get some money from dude. Nope, you know what? He wasn't there yet. So we're sitting in the car waiting for her boyfriend to get there. And an officer passes us. So he passes us, turns around, hits the lights. I mean, the car is parked, so it's not really a traffic stop. So I don't know what he thought he was doing. So he comes up, license, registration, insurance, tell him, oh, I don't have my license on me. I try to play it off because we're not driving, so technically it's not a traffic stop. He's just asking me what I'm doing. So he says, well, what are you doing here? I was like, well, we're waiting on her boyfriend. And he tells me, what do you think, I fell off a turnip truck yesterday? And the first thing that came to my mind was I wanted to ask him, what does that mean? Did you fall off a turnip truck? But I've got a minor in the car with alcohol. Well, she was 19, 20. But she's drunk. She's drunk as shit. So I'm not really going to try to press my luck with him and have a smart ass remark for him. So I just kind of like, no, sir. So he runs my ID. My license comes back and suspended. She's underage and drunk, obviously, and the other girl doesn't have a license at all. So he said, all right, look, this is what we're going to do. You're going to call somebody to come get the car, because if I see you guys driving out here again, I'm going to take the car and you're going to jail. And this is because I know what you guys are out here doing. And I wanted to ask him so bad, like, what do you think we're doing? Like, we're literally coming out here to get this money from her boyfriend and then we're going home. So I don't understand. But the right side of my brain prevailed, and I decided to be quiet and just let it ride. So he drives off. A couple minutes later, the boyfriend shows up, and we get the money. So I thought about it for a while. I was like, who can I call to come out here and get us? And then I really thought, I was like, wait a minute. The freeway is less than a mile from here. I'm going to get on the freeway and go to Greenhaven, and we'll never see this guy again. So we cautiously drive to the freeway, get on the freeway, and we take off, and we made it back. So, again, I wish, well, no, let me take that back. I do not wish, currently or in the past, to ever run into one of these officers that people are talking about that is so hostile and wants a confrontation. Like, I've been pulled over plenty of times. I still haven't met that guy. Oh, you know what? Let me stop lying. I did meet that guy one time. Now that I think about it, but I wasn't driving. Oddly enough, this particular encounter, this was years later. I was walking from the law library in downtown Sacramento. This is when me and the Bando boys were taking over. I was at the law library looking up some real estate law. And me and Dagwood were walking across the street. The law library is on I Street and 10th across from Cesar Chavez Park. And we were crossing the street into the park, and I might have had an adult beverage in a paper bag, like a real transient. And there was maybe 15 officers in the park. I have no idea what they were doing out there. And he sees me. And as I'm walking across the street, I threw the bag in the garbage can. He calls me over and is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "I'm walking to my car." So, well, what was in the bag? Like, "Oh, water." Well, this is an obvious lie. He's like, "Oh, well, what's your name?" And I asked him. This is where our interaction took a turn. He asked me if I had my ID, and I asked him, "Am I lawfully required to give you my ID?" What did you say? So this turned the situation up a notch instantly. And he said, "What did you say?" As I asked him, like, "Am I lawfully required to give you my ID? Like, I'm not committing any crimes. Am I lawfully required to give you my ID?" "Yes, you are, because I'm detaining you." I said, "Okay." I said my name, said my birthday, and I said, "Now that I've identified myself, I'm not participating in this stop. I do not consent to any searches or seizures of my property, and I will not answer any questions." So now he's really pissed. So he cuffs me. Now, mind you, we're standing in the park. He cuffs me, takes my bag off, goes through my bag. "Is this your mail? What is this mail doing in here?" I just look at him. "What's your name? This and this and this." Because, again, I've already identified myself. I've already gave him my birth date, my name. So at this point, I'm not lawfully required to give him anything. Was I being a bit of a jerk? I don't think so. Because, again, at that particular point in time, I knew the law. I still know it now. But I was more apt in a confrontation with a police officer to assert my rights and say, like, "You're not going to illegally stop me. You're not going to search me. You're not just going to walk up on me and ask me to identify myself. I'm not going for that." So now all of the officers come over because he's getting irate. He's asking questions. I'm not answering anything. So he's like, "Oh, you're going to go to jail." So now they go to the garbage can and they find the bag. So he's like, "Oh, it's a drunken public. It's an open container." I still not talking at this point. "Are you on probation, parole?" But just look at him. "You know it's a felony. You have to admit if you're on probation, parole." I've never been on either of the two. So I just keep looking at him. So he's like, "Oh, okay, well, you're going to go to jail." At this point, I wanted to talk, but I was priced in at this point. I've already decided I was going to make a stand. So there was no point to give up any information now. So we're walking across the street. I'm cuffed. Now, in Sacramento, the jail is 3 blocks from where we're at. So this was the walk of shame for me. Because now I have to walk handcuffed to the jail in broad daylight. Dude has my bag. The officer that arrested me, his partner comes up. It was probably 4:30, 4:45 when this happened. The other guy was in the park with him. He runs up. He's like, "Hey, so-and-so, what's going on?" "Oh, you got a suspect, huh? So what'd this guy do?" He says, "Failure to ID." The second cop looks at him and says, "What?" He said, "Wait a minute, wait. You're taking him to jail for failure to ID?" He's like, "Well, he had an open container." He said, "What?" He's like, "Bro, it's 4:45. We get off in 15 minutes. What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, if you're arresting him, you have to know who he is." So the officer looks to me and he's like, "What happened?" And for the first time I spoke, I turned to the second officer and I said, "Well, I was in the park minding my own business, and Judge Dredd over here decided to take me to jail because I didn't answer his questions fast enough." The second officer started dying. And he's like, "Look, man, I'm going to the Kings game tonight, and we're off in 15 minutes. It's going to take you 3 hours to do all the paperwork to arrest this guy. He gave you his name. Give him a ticket and let him go. Like, why are you taking him to jail?" And the first officer didn't respond. And I just look at the second officer. So me and the second officer kind of looked at each other. And he's like, "Well, I'm not helping with the paperwork. So you can stay here all night and write this up if you want to, but I'm not doing it." So we walked to the jail. The second guy is still, he's looking at me like, he's like, where were you even coming from? And I told him, oh, I was coming from the law library. And he was like, well, what were you doing there? I was like, well, looking up my rights about police interactions and such. He loses it again. He was like, so you stopped a guy walking from the law library to the park, and because he didn't ID, he's like, you know what? Have fun in court, buddy. I'm off. So I'm going to leave. Have a good one. And he walks off. So we get to the jail. We walk in, and it's the same thing. Every officer that asks why he arrested me says the same thing. He's like, well, if he ID'd himself, like, why are you doing this? And I had the same response. I was like, well, he's Judge Dredd. And you know how Judge Dredd gets down. So, again, they're all losing it. And there's now I'm sober. I had part of a tall can. So part of a 24-ounce beer. I had one beer, basically. So he tried to write me a ticket for drunk in public, being disorderly, open container. Then I'm obviously lucid. I'm talking to officers. I'm coherent. I'm not being loud. I'm not cursing. I'm not swearing. And at one point, it's been maybe an hour. And one of the officers says to me, why did all of this happen? And I said, look, he's doing his job. He saw me with the bag. I came over. I asked him if I'm lawfully required to identify myself. I get it. I was like, but look, I'm sure that everyone in this room who was a sworn officer didn't become an officer to pull people over or to write people tickets for open containers. I was like, look, the most dangerous part of your job is a traffic stop. Or it's when you encounter people on the street like this. It's like, I'm 100% sure that you guys would rather respond to calls where there's a victim. A robbery, an assault, a robbery. I was like, that's what you became police officers for. I was like, hell, that's why I wanted to be a cop. I was like, you're solving crimes. You're helping people. Like, who signed up to write tickets? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I'm willing to bet you right now that the officer in that poster would still be alive if he wasn't doing a traffic stop. Now, well, backstory. There was a poster in the jail of a reward for $100,000 because there was an officer that was killed on one of these back roads out in Wilton somewhere. He pulled over a van. It was all blacked out. One of the service vans, like a painter's van, stuff like that. All the windows were black. They had no license plate. He walked up to the window of the car. He got shot. The guy never got caught. We don't know who it was. This is 15 years later. The guy never got caught. So my point to them was these minor interactions that you have with people that are putting your life on the line for no reason. And that's not what you guys signed up to be cops for. That's why I'm not arguing with him right now. I'll take my ticket. Fine. If that's what you want to do, it's fine with me. And it was at that moment that I won over the room. Because people come in, they yell, they cuss, they fuss. I didn't do nothing. You pigs, you this and this and this. And again, they tell you to write tickets. That's how you guys make money. That's fine. And I don't have a problem with it. If you catch me, you catch me. But I don't think that's what you should be doing. Like, that's silly. You're risking your life for a ticket. I feel like people would have a way different view of police officers if they didn't write tickets. If police officers didn't do traffic stops, I don't think that many people would be bothered by them. If they just went to calls where they were responding to an event or a crime where there's a victim, people wouldn't mind. But I mean, it's not Judge Dredd's fault. That's what he's been trained to do. So I can't fault him. So after this, I get released, 8-hour hold. Ended up going to court for it, and it got dismissed in the interest of justice. Oh, surprise, surprise. I finally got my license back after a couple of years, and I rarely got pulled over now because I'm old. I don't really speed anymore. I don't smoke in the car. I don't do stuff like that. It's silly. This particular time, again, I wasn't even driving. I was sitting in the car. We get pulled over again. Well, they made a stop. We were at a bar in Citrus Heights. again, a suburb outside of Sacramento. It was myself, Smokey the Bee, Black Ass Mike, and A1. We were sitting in the car, getting ready for the club, having a few drinks, and a officer drives by, hits us up, blue blue. So you know the deal: license, registration, insurance. So the officer comes up, "How you doing?" "Fine, officer." And usually when I get pulled over and there's other people in the car, I tell them as soon as we get pulled over, nobody talks. If the officer talks to you, give him whatever he wants. If he wants your ID, give it to him. If you want to stand your ground and not give him your ID, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But you're not going to cuss at them. You're not going to yell. You're not going to say, "Why'd you pull us over? We didn't do nothing." You're not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. I won't stand for it. This will be the last time we ever hang out. And I make it abundantly clear because that determines their attitude. Whatever attitude you give them, they're going to give it back to you. Now, with this in mind, we all know how Black Ass Mike is. So as soon as the officer walks up, "Why are you messing with us?" And I just look at him like, "Bro, we just talked about this. Why are you... You know what? I'm not going to say nothing. If you beat your ass, that's your ass." So the officer said, "All right, I want everybody's ID in the car. Give it up." So we give up their ID. We give up their IDs. He kind of makes eye contact with Black Ass after he says that. So he walks away. Now I ask everyone in the car after the officer leaves, like, "Now there's no surprises, right? Nobody has any warrants or any outstanding shit like that. It's not going to be a surprise, right?" They're like, "No, we're fine. So the officer comes back. "Mr. Shaw, here you go. Smokey the Bee, here you go. Who's Black Ass Mike?" He raises his hand. "Oh, Black Ass Mike, you have a warrant out of Sacramento County." So we're like, of course he does. Of course Black Ass would have a warrant. He says, "But I'm going to give you a break today because I don't feel like driving all the way to Sacramento and I don't feel like doing the paperwork. So you might want to get that warrant taken care of and you might want to lose the attitude." So I shoot him a glance, but I leave it alone. He's like, "Now, if you're Black Ass, A1, you have a warrant out of Utah." We're like, "Oh, what?" Because, like, as a matter of fact, you have a warrant for a gun charge out of Utah. Now we all stop and turn around and look, and it's like, "You have what?" And again, the officer says, "But again, I'm on patrol with another car tonight, so I'm not going to take you in, and I don't feel like doing the paperwork. But if I was you, I suggest you get that taken care of. Now, gentlemen, please don't park here anymore. If you're going to park for the club, you need to park around the corner. We've had some break-ins, such and such. That's why I came up. There's 4 of you sitting in the car. Have a nice day." So, "Thank you, officer. I appreciate that." So we leave. We park where we're supposed to park. And my first question is like, "A1, first of all, how do you not know you have a warrant? Second of all, why do you have a warrant for a gun charge?" A1 I went to high school with A1. He was an A student. And he had just got out of the Air Force. And he tells me a story of he was driving back from Utah, and he had just been discharged from the Air Force, so he had some guns on him. They're all legally registered to him. It was him and 3 other guys, and he had a brand new Cadillac at the time. They were driving through Utah, smoking weed, speeding like you're not supposed to do. So he gets pulled over, and Utah is they have zero tolerance at the time for marijuana. Well, I'm sure they still have zero tolerance. But he gets pulled over. They smell weed in the car, so that's a charge right there. Then they find the guns, so even though they're registered to him, it's now a felony because you have drugs in your car. So the guns now become a felony, and it's a whole convoluted story that he told. But the moral of the story is, if you don't know, shut the fuck up. Don't get an attitude with the police. Especially if you're in the car with me. Now, after this, I was good. I didn't get pulled over for a while. I was on my best behavior. We moved to Bakersfield after this. Now, I'm grown at this point. I'm 30-some-odd years old, so it's been years since I got pulled over. I can't even remember the last time I got pulled over. I was in the Maserati, and the Maserati was Well, it wasn't really a Maserati. It was a Mazda 626, but I drove it like a Maserati. But at this point, the Maserati, it wasn't vroom vrooming like it used to. So I just got off work, left my friend's house. We had a couple drinks or two, maybe a puff or something. I don't remember. And I'm going over the hill, and when I get to the top of the hill, I see the lights start to change. So I take the light. I barely beat that one. And in my rearview mirror, I see a police car. So I'm like, oh, here we go. So we get to the second light. So at the second light, I'm like, it's going to turn. I make it. So I barely get through that one. Now the third light is at the bottom of the hill. And I was going to chance it. And the light just turned red. And I was like, I'm not going to chance it. So I stopped. And the officer pulls in behind me. And I'm already like, oh, he's running my plate right now. I already know. He's just waiting for the light to turn green to pull me over. Light turns green, starts to go in the intersection. Bloop, bloop. So I pull over. I pull over into the shopping center. And I roll my window down. I already know the drill. License, registration, insurance. So as the officer walks up to the window, he says, "Oh, do you know why I'm stopping you today?" I said, "No, officer, I haven't the slightest idea." In that voice, he immediately chuckles. So now I know I got him. He says license, registration. I give him my license, and we lived in Bakersfield, but I still had a Sacramento address on my ID. So he says, "Well, I stopped you because you ran two of those lights back there." He's like, "Why didn't you run the third?" I was like, well, in all honesty, the Maserati isn't running like it used to, so I took the lights because I didn't want to stop and risk messing something up. That's why I moved over a lane so that I wouldn't be in the closest lane to traffic if somebody was to jump out. And I didn't take the third one because it wasn't really that close. He's like, okay. He's like, well, where are you coming from? I was like, well, I just dropped a coworker off. I'm the manager at Dickie's Barbecue Pit, and I just dropped him off. I'm on my way home. I gave him my address. It was maybe a mile away. So he says, okay, goes back, runs my license, comes back. He's like, all right, next time, try not to take the lights. Be a little bit more careful. Have a good one. So I was like, whew, another close one. And again, like I said, like I was telling the young lady, and I always tell people, laughter, if you can make the officer laugh, 10 times out of 10, you're going to get out of the ticket. If you're just honest with them, tell them what happened, maybe crack a joke, you'll get out of the ticket. But if you come with an attitude, you're being hostile, they're going to write you a ticket just because they can. I don't understand why. Where are we at? Oh, 58 minutes. All right. I got 2 more stories for you and we're out of here. After that, I moved. We were getting ready for the wedding, and I had gone to the best man's house. And what did you know? We were smoking again. I know, right? Seems to be a common thing before I get pulled over. And I was in the Maserati again. I had a whole bunch of laundry because I'd come to my mom's house. I was visiting for the weekend. I get pulled over on another phantom call, or a phantom crime. I didn't signal before I turned or something like that. So I get out of the car, and it was a female officer, and I'm 6'2", 290. So she immediately was like, yeah, turn around. We're going to cuff you. You're not arrested. We were just detaining you. So she tries to put me in the back of the cop car, and I'm like, ma'am, I don't run in my spare time. Like, I'm not running anywhere. I'm not wanted. I don't have any warrants. Like, no. So she says, she's like, all right. So she has me sit in front of the car, or sit on the hood of the squad car. She goes to search in the car. Is there anything in the car I should be worried about? I'm like, no. I had some weed in there, but I wasn't going to tell her. Find it if you want it. So she searches the car, looks in my bag. It's all full of dirty laundry. And it's a football bag. So it's a big, stinky-ass bag of laundry that she doesn't want to go through. And my socks and drawers are on top, so she's not going to go through there. So me and the other officer chopping it up, talking, hey, I'm from Bakersfield, this and this and this. I'm getting married, da 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 da. So she walks back up to him. She was like, all right, well, have a nice day. And oh yeah, next time, just tell me there's some weed in the car. Like, I don't care. It's legal. No one gives a fuck. I was like, oh, shit. All right. Well, have a good one. Thanks a lot, officer. Oh. As bad, this is why I can never agree with people when they're like, oh, man, fuck the police. Like, man, fuck you. Every time mine got pulled over, they let me keep my weed, so, hey, kiss my ass. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. All right. This is the last time I got pulled over. I haven't been pulled over in years. Last time, and then we'll go, because I got to walk the dogs. I was in my wife's car. Now, I don't smoke anymore. I haven't smoked for a while. I know. Congratulations. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I let Cindy Mac and Nellie smoke in the car one day because we went to a restaurant. And I was like, I don't care. Go ahead. By the time I get back, she'll never know. So they smoke in the car. We go eat and we leave. And I still, at the time, I didn't drink. I still don't drink right now. So that's me being an adult, I guess. So I don't smoke. I don't drink. But I do drink Perrier. Perrier is, I don't know, fancy kind of mineral water. But it comes in a green glass bottle. This is important for later. So I'm driving home. I'm driving down Laguna Boulevard. And the lights, it's yellow. So yellow means go faster. It turns red. I go through the light. And who do I see sitting at the thing ready to turn right? But it's fucking EGPD. So as soon as I see him, I just pull over. I don't even make him chase me. I just immediately pull over. Hits the lights on me. Comes up to the car. Hey, how you doing? I was like, fine until I saw you, officer. Again, he chuckled. And I knew I had him. So he asked me, where are you coming from? I was like, oh, I was coming from Applebee's. And friends were out. Had some drinks. He's like, oh, were you... He's like, I detect a strong odor of marijuana coming from your car. I was like, officer, I don't even smoke. I let my friend smoke. Now, my eyes are clear because I didn't drink and I didn't smoke. So he can look at me and see I didn't really drink. Now, he's on the passenger side. And he asked me if I had anything to drink. It's like, no, officer, I don't really drink. So he's flashing the flashlight into the car. And he sees a green bottle underneath the passenger side. This is important because Mickey's, the malt liquor, comes in a green glass bottle like that. So he sees the bottom of the bottle. He rips the door open, slams the car, slams the passenger seat all the way up to the front, and he grabs the bottle and he sees that it's a Perrier bottle. So I just have this shocked look on my face, like, "Are you okay, officer?" And now he's immediately embarrassed because he thought it was a Mickey's bottle, but now he feels silly because he sees that it's a mineral water bottle. So he said, no, it's fine. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. And I drive off and didn't get a ticket. So I hope you enjoyed all of my run-ins with the law. So again, like I said earlier, it's all about your attitude for me. There's other stories that we'll get into later that I had some very fun stories that we'll talk about when we went to jail. That was fun. But it all depends on your attitude, like how you interact with the police. I'm very wary of how I deal with them because I'm a 6'2" black guy. I'm 6'2", damn near 300 pounds, and that changes the dynamic of our encounter. So if I were to get out and get an attitude, I'm going to get dragged out of the car. I'm going to get slammed on the ground. I'm going to get cuffed. All of that. They're going to look for a reason to write me a ticket. But if you treat them, in my experience, I can't speak for every officer. I can't speak for every person. But if you treat people with respect, I don't see a reason why they will go out of their way to be jerks to you. Now, the guy that I didn't ID myself to, like, he was trying to prove a point, but even the other officers were like, dude, he told you who he was. He doesn't have any warrants. Just let it go. And I caused that one. Even the argument with the guy at the basketball game, I caused that one. Now, that's not to say that there aren't officers who do that, who harass people and so on and so forth, but I feel like that's the exception to the rule. That doesn't really happen too often. So, I guess the moral of the story today is treat people how you want to be treated. If if you have an encounter with one of our fine members of law enforcement, just remember that they're people just like me and you. They have a tough job to do. They deal with people who cuss at them, fuss at them, and then they don't know who you are. You might be a wanted felon. Is it all right for them to guess that that's what it is? Probably not. But I mean, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. So, let's see. What are we going to do next time? I don't know what we're going to do next time. I'll figure out something interesting. But don't forget, follow me, Tru Sav Comedy, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Questions, comments, concerns, or if you got a police story for me, bestdayeverpodcast@gmail.com. Oh, update. Spotify and iTunes are live and direct. You've got to search for, I want to say the author being Tru Sav, being the author of the podcast, or you can search by the title of the episode. So I'll be sure to say that, oh, wow. Well, I can't really tell you the title of the episode and the episode I'm saying, can I? But it's still on YouTube. I'll try to make an effort to talk to Spotify today to make sure that it just comes up under Best Day Ever Podcast. With that being said, I can't get yesterday back and I might get tomorrow, but it's still the best day ever. Holla.